Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. I am Hoyt, and for Journey Taylor, let's give you a look at the stories that we are following as we start this noon hour. Secretary of State Antony Blinken returns to Israel. Blinken's diplomatic mission comes as Israel's military says it has completely encircled the capital of Gaza. Plus, as conflict continues at the border of Israel, many are learning to shoot to protect themselves and their families. Take a look as Israelis flock to gun ranges. And the 100-day countdown to the Super Bowl is underway. The game's in Vegas, but we'll head to Times Square for an exciting kickoff and what to expect in this year's big game. We've got gorgeous weather to wrap up the week. It's getting warmer out there. Just talking to meteorologist Nathan Scott before we came on about how it's even warmer than some folks expected today.
Good afternoon, Rolly. Yeah, it's a temperature turnaround. This morning, we started off the morning with some chilly conditions. As expected, 28 was the low in Clinton, 34 in Hot Springs, 36 here in Little Rock, 29 in Searcy. But check it out, with wall-to-wall sunshine, those numbers have jumped up into the upper 50s to lower 60s. It's 63 right now in Little Rock, 60 in Hot Springs, 65 in Pine Bluff, and 62 in Searcy. So we're already 8 degrees warmer than this time yesterday, and it's all because we got that breeze out there from the south-southwest, about 5 to as high as 15 miles per hour. The temperatures will climb up, I think, into the upper 60s to low 70s this afternoon. So a great afternoon to enjoy the outdoors, open up the windows, and if you like this type of weather, you're going to love the weekend. It is much different than what we experienced last weekend. I'll have more on that and let you know how long these warmer temperatures will be sticking around coming up.
Welcome news, especially considering what we were looking at last weekend. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he makes his return to Israel today, and while there, he reiterated President Joe Biden's support for that country. But as Natalie Brand reports, he also carries a message from the White House to do everything possible to protect Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
At a news conference in Tel Aviv, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken reminded the world of the brutality of the Hamas terror attacks on October 7th, telling the story of 2 young boys in Israel.
Where's Daddy? One says. The other says, they killed Daddy. Where's my mommy? And then the terrorist comes in and casually opens the refrigerator and starts to eat from it. That's what we're dealing with.
The secretary once again pledged support for Israel while also stressing the importance of minimizing civilian casualties in Gaza and increasing humanitarian aid to the millions of Palestinian civilians living in the Hamas-controlled territory.
We need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians.
The diplomatic trip comes as Israeli airstrikes continue, leaving Palestinians to dig through the rubble to find survivors. Israel's military says it has encircled Gaza City, and the IDF released footage of what it says are its soldiers uncovering Hamas tunnels.
Secretary Blinken says a focus of his trip is to prevent the war from growing into a wider regional conflict, even as the head of Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militia in Lebanon, threatens escalation.
Israel says civilians in the north of the country were injured in a rocket attack from Lebanon. It responded by targeting Hezbollah infrastructure. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And that leader of Hezbollah said today that the group is undeterred by American warnings and all their options remain on the table. More data out of the conflict from Israel and their military today, including a recalculation that more than 3,000 Hamas militants attacked their country on October 7th. And now, as Israelis take security into their own hands, many are rushing to buy guns to make sure if they're ever attacked again, they'll be ready. More than 150,000 people have applied for a handgun license since the war started, as compared to roughly 13,000 in all of last year.
I think October 7th changed Israel completely. And no matter how you try to look at it, we're a changed nation. From October 8th, we had a flood of people coming in. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's scared.
The gun rules in Israel are a little different from the U.S. Anyone who applies for a gun there has to complete a 4.5-hour government-mandated training course while also registering their gun with authorities. In New York, a guilty verdict has come down for former cryptocurrency billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried. It took a Manhattan jury less than 4 hours to decide that the former CEO of the crypto trading company FTX committed fraud amid his company's collapse last year. The 31-year-old stole as much as $10 billion in customer funds, defrauded those customers, as well as the lenders of FTX's affiliated hedge fund, Alameda Research, I should say. Prosecutors calling it one of the biggest financial frauds in American history.
The cryptocurrency industry might be new, but this kind of fraud, this kind of corruption is as old as time.
Sentencing now set for March 28th, early next year. Bankman-Fried is expected to file an appeal. Developing today, the sheriff in Hot Spring County spending the night in jail and then going before a federal magistrate in about 90 minutes. That's when we hope to learn specifics about the felony charges lodged against Scott Finkbeiner. The FBI arrested the first-term sheriff on a federal warrant yesterday. The charges are under seal until that first court appearance, which will be by video conference beginning at 1:30. Finkbeiner defeated the previous sheriff, Mike Cash, in the Republican primary last year before winning the job in a landslide last November. THV 11's Ian Russell is covering this for us today. We'll have updates from him both online as well as later in the news when we kick that off beginning at 5 o'clock. A team in Jefferson County now working together to keep kids safe before they make those decisions that could affect the rest of their lives. It comes as officers detect an increase in teen gun violence since the pandemic. Group Violence Intervention is made up of community members, law enforcement, and social workers. And part of their mission right now is going door to door, trying to build mentorships with kids who might be inclined to engage in gun violence.
Go out and you visit them on a regular basis, check on them, see how they're doing, what's going on with them, make sure they're not involved in any other activity, make sure they don't have people at their house that they shouldn't, and then also reaching out to them in a different way, trying to see what other services or whatever help they may need.
We've got more on this group, GVI. They're looking for volunteers to help mentor these kids. So if you'd like to be a part of that, in the full version of this story we've got online, we've got their info in there. Go to thv11.com. The state has seen its first flu-related death of the season. The health department reported the unidentified person as over the age of 65. So far, one nursing home has reported an outbreak. It's early in the season, with weekly reports just picking up again last month, but the report right now classifies influenza activity as minimal. It also includes COVID numbers now and reported no COVID deaths in the past week. And as that season does begin to ramp up, the hard to pin down numbers of people complaining of what's called long COVID, they've got some new data to work with. An analysis by the Census Bureau indicates that 14% of Americans have experienced long COVID symptoms. For the most part, researchers say the affliction is associated with anxiety, low mood, as well as continued physical mobility problems and challenges with memory and concentration, and those symptoms persist for several weeks after an infection. And while health officials monitor human flu, the state agriculture department is dealing with its first case of bird flu. It turned up on a poultry farm in Madison County on Thursday. Public health officials stressed that avian flu poses no risk to humans or the meat and eggs that we buy right now. However, the virus can spread quickly between flocks and be deadly to chickens, and that poses a danger to the poultry industry. That affected farm is under quarantine. A new study finds opioid prescriptions filled by dental patients in the U.S. dropped by 45% over a 6-year period. But researchers from the University of Michigan say even with that decline, more than 7 million dental patients still receive those painkillers through 2022. Previous research shows that most dental pain can be controlled without using the highly addictive medications. The Little Rock School District, they're looking to make some changes, and they're asking for your help, the public, to weigh in. They're soliciting feedback on ways to shape the future of the district, and big changes need to happen, including cutting $15 to $16 million to stay within the 2025 budget. Superintendent Jamal Wright says they want to turn to the public at this point for any help to make sure they don't overlook anything.
These are big decisions that we are going to have to make that are going to have a lasting effect for years or even decades to come, and so we want to make sure that we do this right.
The public input section is open until this evening, 5 o'clock. We've got that link available at thv11.com. Coming up, the first Friday of the month is when we get the nation's unemployment outlook. So we'll hear from economists after the Labor Department noted a weakening job market and how that may actually be good news when it comes to inflation.
And our View 11 showing nothing but blue sky. Beautiful Friday is setting up shop here in Central Arkansas, and this very nice weather. Although warm for this time of year, we'll stick around for the weekend. I'll let you know when we can see some rain return to the forecast coming up next.